The big one is coming. Are you tech ready? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. I live in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States. It's considered a part of the Ring of Fire that extends around the edge of the Pacific Ocean from the west coast of South America, up through and around Alaska, and then down along the eastern coast of Asia. It's called the Ring of Fire because it contains, I'll just call it an above average number of volcanoes. Now, I'm not terribly concerned about volcanoes, but what the ring is also known for are earthquakes. And, if you live in this area, you probably already know, we're actually overdue for what we refer to as the big one. Now, while I can't give you a comprehensive life and safety overview to prepare, we absolutely can and should talk about your online presence and your data. Even if you're not at risk of a huge earthquake, there are plenty of other disasters that could wreak havoc just as well. Your big one might be something different. Like I said, I prepare for earthquakes, specifically what we call the big one, something 7 or larger, I think it is on the Richter scale, meaning it has major infrastructure damage. You might need to prep for that or for something else. It could be tornadoes or hurricanes, wildfires, or some other natural disaster. It could be non-natural disasters like terrorist attacks, invasions, or governmental overthrows. It could be, and perhaps might be most relatable as something as simple as your house burning to the ground. Of all the risks, I suppose that one might be the most likely across the board for all of us. But it doesn't really matter what you prepare for as long as you prepare. When I talk to people about emergency management in general, which as a ham radio operator I do from time to time, I point out that preparing for the big one might seem like overkill, but almost by definition it means you're prepared for all the little ones that are much more likely to occur. Local storms that knock out power and connectivity for a while. Property damage from natural events that, while not widespread, just happen to hit your house the hardest. Burglary and theft. Consider it the scaled down version of looting for those larger events. Unanticipated equipment damage or failure. Just about anything that can go wrong, and of course will. By having plans for the worst, you automatically have plans for the inconvenient. So if you were to prepare for your big one, what would that look like? You know what's going to be first on my list, right? Backing up. Equipment can be replaced. Data is often precious and irreplaceable. More than that, though, this is a good time to adopt the 3-2-1 rule of backing up. 3 copies of your data, 2 different kinds of media, one of which is stored off-site. Cloud storage services like Dropbox and OneDrive and many others honestly make it really easy to hit those last 2 in one stroke. Now make sure you're taking backups of everything. I prefer image backups as one approach on a regular automated schedule. If you're not automated, then you're relying on your memory, and that's a recipe for forgetting at exactly the wrong time. Power protection is another thing. This one comes in 2 flavors. For short-term interruptions, say less than 30 minutes, a good UPS will do. This can be even more important than just protecting from actual outages, since it protects your devices from actual damage should the power fluctuate or spike or become intermittent for any reason. For longer-term power outages, things get a little less clear. We have a generator, for example, that we recently ran for about 3 days during a storm-related power outage. It wasn't for my tech, it was primarily for our fridge and freezer, but a convenient side effect was that it was able to keep select computers running and phones charged as well. Now, which of either of these is appropriate for you, of course, is going to depend on your own situation, your own risk assessment, and of course, your own budget. Not everyone needs a generator, for example. But everyone should at least have a plan. Now, it's not uncommon for the internet to go down during storms and other weather-related events. When our cable internet went belly up during that 3-day storm I talked about, it was my mobile plan to the rescue. No, the speeds were nowhere near the same, particularly as everyone else around us did essentially the same thing, but it worked. It allowed us to connect and check and provide status updates and just remain knowledgeable about what was happening around us. Now, your mobile plan may be enough to back up your home internet, but it may not. Beware of things like data caps and speed limitations that kick in after a certain amount of usage. If you switch to your mobile connection as your primary, I can pretty much guarantee you that you'll chew through whatever your allotment is very quickly. Now, there's a more serious scenario that's worth considering as well. It's also not uncommon for the mobile network to fail completely for major events. Here, the expectation is that it won't survive the big one. And we've certainly heard stories from hurricane-affected areas as well. Now, I don't have a blanket recommendation, as it is once again something that depends on your situation. Solutions could range from being prepared with, satellite internet, or becoming a ham radio operator. One of the often overlooked aspects of disaster planning is online account access. Consider this. As part of your disaster, you lose access to your mobile device or your computer or your notepad with your passwords or whatever. In order to connect, you get or borrow a replacement device. You try to sign on and nothing. You're signing in from a new device. You don't have your second factor or perhaps even your passwords in order to access your primary or alternate recovery accounts. My favorite way to prepare is I use a password vault. Never forget your password vault's master password. And if that vault has additional requirements for a first-time sign-in on a new device, like two-factor authentication, make sure you've got that covered somehow too. Now, depending on the nature of the requirement, that first-time sign-in could require jumping through a few hoops. Make sure you know what those hoops are in advance. That way, you can prepare. Sometimes it'll mean having access to an alternate account. Sometimes it'll mean having backup codes available. Sometimes it'll mean something else. What's important here is that you know what those are and that you have a plan. For example, my plan. I have hidden behind accounts and encryption for which I remember the passwords, enough recovery information to bootstrap getting back into my 1Password vault. After that, I'm into everything. In addition, I have specific people I could reach out to who are out of the area who have designated emergency access to the vault as well. Bottom line here is that nobody honestly really likes the concept of disaster planning. I get it. It means having to think about disasters. However, it can make all the difference when it comes to how much hassle you might have to deal with should the big one happen. And it'll make all those little ones so much more easier to deal with. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/180966. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.